a type of registry for undocumented immigrants.
Deported from the U.S.
What if, with no warning, your friends, co-workers, or even family members were taken away, never to return? Imagine entire communities living in fear, businesses struggling to fill jobs, and families being separated overnight. Across the United States, this is becoming a reality as the Trump administration intensifies its efforts to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. What was once a political debate has now turned into a national crisis, affecting not only those at risk of deportation, but also the economy, social stability, and the very identity of America itself. In early 2025, President Donald Trump signed over 50 executive orders, many of which reshaped immigration enforcement. One of the most controversial executive order, titled Protecting the American People Against Invasion, dramatically expanded the scope of deportation efforts. This policy strengthens the power of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, increases penalties for individuals found to be in the country illegally, and broadens the use of expedited removals, meaning that more people can be deported without a court hearing. The administration argues that this is necessary to restore law and order, but critics warn that it is leading to wrongful detentions, the targeting of long-term residents, and the erosion of due process. To enforce these policies at such a massive scale, the administration has explored new methods of deportation, including the use of private military contractors. Eric Prince, founder of the notorious private security firm Blackwater, has proposed a $25 billion plan to create deportation squads, processing centers, and a fleet of aircraft dedicated to expelling undocumented immigrants. If implemented, this would mark the first time in U.S. history that private military forces were used for large-scale domestic law enforcement. Many see this as a dangerous shift toward authoritarianism, raising ethical and legal concerns about the use of for-profit mercenaries in a process that is already fraught with controversy. Meanwhile, ICE operations have intensified, leading to widespread fear in immigrant communities. In January 2025 alone, nearly 20,000 migrants were arrested, a number that nearly matches the total arrests made in all of 2024. The impact of mass deportation extends far beyond those directly affected. It is shaking the foundations of local economies, particularly in industries that rely on immigrant labor. Undocumented immigrants make up a significant portion of the workforce in sectors such as agriculture, construction, food service, and domestic work. With thousands being deported or going into hiding, businesses are experiencing severe labor shortages. Farmers are warning of crops rotting in fields due to a lack of workers. Restaurants and hotels are struggling to stay open. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has expressed concerns that mass deportation could cost the economy hundreds of billions of dollars and lead to price hikes for consumers as businesses scramble to replace lost workers. But beyond economics, the human toll is devastating. Families are being ripped apart, with children returning home from school to find that their parents have been taken by ICE. In many cases, these are mixed-status families, where some members are U.S. citizens while others are undocumented. The trauma of sudden separation is leaving deep scars, with mental health professionals reporting a rise in anxiety, depression, and PTSD among children of deported parents. Schools are struggling to support students who are living in fear, and social services are being overwhelmed by the growing number of children left without caregivers. Legal experts and civil rights organizations are mounting challenges against the administration's policies, arguing that the expansion of expedited removals violates constitutional protections. Under these new policies, individuals who have lived in the U.S. for years can now be detained and deported within days, often without access to a lawyer. Immigration courts are overwhelmed, and advocacy groups are struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of cases. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is seeking to reinstate policies such as family separation at the border, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. Amidst this crackdown, protests are erupting across the country. Advocacy groups, religious leaders, and even some law enforcement officials are speaking out against what they see as an unjust and inhumane approach. Cities with large immigrant populations such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York have vowed to resist federal efforts, with local leaders declaring their commitment to protecting undocumented residents. However, the administration is pushing back by threatening to cut funding to sanctuary cities and increasing raids in areas where resistance is strongest. At this crossroads, America faces a defining moment. The decisions made today will determine the nation's identity for generations to come. Is mass deportation truly the answer to immigration reform, or is is it a dangerous step toward a more divided and unstable society? What happens when fear replaces opportunity, when workers are taken from their jobs, and when children grow up believing that they are not welcome in the only country they have ever known? The answer lies not only in the hands of policymakers, but in the voices of the American people. Immigration has always been a cornerstone of the nation's history, shaping its culture, economy, and future. The question now is whether the U.S. will embrace a path of compassion and reform or continue down the road of aggressive enforcement and mass removals. The time to act is now. Stay informed, speak out, support organizations that defend immigrant rights, engage in conversations with your community, contact your representatives, and demand humane immigration policies. The future of millions depends on what we do next. Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.